The House Committee on Education and Workforce held hearings about the anti Semitic activities that were happening on several campuses. Now, the two main people that talked most at this hearing that I've seen several people talk with them. One is president of Haverford College. I don't know much about Haverford. And the other one is DePaul. Now, Lisa McLean and Tim Walberg. Tim Walberg is the chairman of this committee. Uh, they both go after these folks. On top of the fact of that, Lisa McLean is pretty combative with them. Tim Walberg seems to be trying to be a little bit more, I don't know, reasonable in his discussions with them. But I've got the two clips here. I think that this is some interesting testimony. The Lisa McLean stuff is more of a, I guess, nodding of a head. You didn't get to see it, but oh, and as I've said in other videos, I've been getting quite a few folks that have been subscribing to me and everything. Facebook has decided not to be nice to me. Go figure. I have a link tree down below. It's got my Facebook and my MeWe. If you want to see my regular postings on there, you can go through there. You can join up. So that would, you know, I don't know, helps me at all. I'm wanting to build a community, so I want to hear what y'all have to say. So if you get a chance, check it out. But here's the two clips.
Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself.
Under Committee Rule 9, we'll now question witnesses under the 5-minute rule. I'll recognize myself for the first 5 minutes. This question is for all three presidents. All of your schools have been hotbeds of Semitism at some point. Please tell me how many students at your schools have been suspended and how many have been expelled for anti-Semitic conduct since October 7th, 2023. President Raymond?
We don't publicize those numbers, and we use suspension and expelling as normal parts of our disciplinary process.
But you don't have numbers to give us, so we assume there have been none.
We do not talk about those numbers publicly.
Mr. Manuel?
Thank you for the question. Post October 7th, there were 8 student groups investigated. 2 were suspended and put on probation. I believe there were 2 arrests after the encampment dissolution. One of them, I believe, was a student.
Thank you. President Armstrong?
As a result of events in 2024, we've had a total of 6 students disciplined, with the discipline ranging from 2-quarter suspension to deferred suspension to probation.
Thank you. President Manuel, you say you're committed to addressing anti-Semitism on campus. The group Students for Justice in Palestine, or SJP, is at the very center of your anti-Semitism problem. Students have been physically and verbally assaulted at multiple SJP protests. SJP was central to the May 2024 encampment, which caused $500,000 in damage. SJP has also circulated deeply anti-Semitic posts on Instagram, including a recent post accusing Israel of being just like the Nazis. President Manuel, considering SJP's history of harassment and violence against Jewish students and its repeated refusal to abide by university policies, will you commit to finally permanently banning SJP from campus?
Thank you for the question. SJP has been suspended They were on probation, and this post that I think you're referring to happened on Thursday. They were immediately suspended in all their operations from campus pending a new hearing. The cumulative effect of their work will be considered in the results or the outcomes of that next hearing. I'd be happy to report back to you on their findings.
I'd be glad to receive that. The cumulative effect seems like it's gone on, and I believe it'd be a point in time for banning. President Raymond, in March, the Haverford and Bryn Mawr group Faculty and Staff for Justice in Palestine, or FSJP, praised a Palestinian terrorist who led an attack in 1978 that killed 38 Israelis, including 13 children. FSJP claimed that the terrorist, and I quote, scarified herself for her country and fought for the freedom of many Palestinians. Does praising the murder of Jews violate any Haverford policies?
Of course it does.
Thank you.
There is no place for that,
Thank
ever, anywhere.
Another FSJP post applauded a member of the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, a U.S.-designated terrorist group, because she trained for military operations. Did Haverford professors in this group face any consequences whatsoever?
I am not aware of that particular post, and anti-Semitism in any of its forms is not tolerated at Haverford College.
Well, with these faculty, it seems to have been. I'm going to ask you a few questions about statements we've heard on Haverford's campus since the October 7th terrorist attack against Israel. And again, I will not display all that's in this book, but this reminds us that the attack was not from Israel. The attack was from Hamas. Brutal, unprovoked attack as well. Is the phrase, "long live the Intifada," protected speech on Haverford's campus? Yes or no?
That is an anti-Semitic form of speech.
Is the phrase, "from Gaza to Lebanon, Israel will soon be gone," protected speech on Haverford's campus?
That is repugnant speech. I disavow it. It is anti-Semitic.
And happening. Is the phrase, "resistance is not terrorism," protected speech on Haverford's campus?
Any anti-Semitic speech I will not defend, and at Haverford we do protect speech.
Do these statements call for the genocide of Jews?
There is no tolerance for any such speech that would call for that.
Well, we hope we see that soon to come. Hamas is gaining support and comfort from schools that allow this to go on, and these go beyond just simply words. They include faculty and students blocking the freedom of education and life itself for Jewish students. I yield back, and now I recognize Representative Bonamici from Michigan. Ms. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I happen to agree with my colleague. Actions speak louder than words, and we need action. And that's what I hope that we see here today, not just in the week leading up to this hearing, we all of a sudden find a conscience and start action. So let me start with you, Dr. Manuel. On October 18th, 23, DePaul Students for Justice in Palestine held a rally calling for the Intifada revolution, encouraging terrorist attacks to be perpetuated against Jewish civilians. On the same day, Jewish student leaders contacted DePaul administrators expressing feelings of saying they were increasingly scared that the safety and for the safety of the Jewish community. Does that ring a bell? Okay. The following day, October 19th, 2023, pro-Hamas rallies on campus resulted in the physical assault of a Jewish student. Sound familiar? 6 months later, on April 29th, 24, a pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas mob occupied DePaul's Lincoln Park campus. So there was an encampment on April 29th, correct?
Correct.
Did you remove it or disable it on that day?
No, we did not.
Okay. Why?
Representative, we we learned an awful lot
I'm
from.
not asking what you learned. I'm asking why you made the decision, because I'm going to refer you to your policy that you have in place. Why didn't you follow your policy?
Our immediate instinct was to work with our students. The reference.
How'd that go?
Not very
You
well.
want to ask Michael how that went?
Yeah, it did not go very well.
Thank you.
And I apologize for that.
Your apologies are a little hollow. On May 10th, you issued a statement. So the encampment's still there, April 29th. It's now May 10th. On May 10th, you issued a statement titled Quad Safety Concerns. So you knew there was a safety issue, hence issuing the statement. Here was the statement. You urged all members of the DePaul community to avoid the quad. Well, that's great. Again, hey, let's make sure that we attack the law-abiding citizens, but not deal with the problem of the encampment. So you knew yourself there was a problem, but decided not to remove it. Why?
So that at that moment, we realized that the security and safety of everybody was in jeopardy. That is the moment that we decided to work with CPD.
And it took you 6 days?
Our public safety officer.
I mean, no, it took you 6 days because you knew it was dangerous. You didn't remove it on the 10th. You didn't remove it until 6 days later. So it took you 6 days to coordinate an effort to remove an encampment?
It took us the moment we realized, we went to CPD and asked for
Which
their
was
help.
when? When did you realize you had a problem?
We started working with CPD from the first day so that they were aware of those
Okay,
situations.
so 3 weeks. It took you 3 weeks?
It took us from the time you mentioned until the 16th or 17th to coordinate with CPD to get
You
them.
think that's acceptable?
I do not. And
Okay,
what we
wonderful,
learned-
wonderful, wonderful. So I don't think the issue is more policies. I think the issue is action. So the people that are in charge, would you say that that is an acceptable amount of time for action?
I would agree with you that we need to do better.
Great. So would you agree with me also that almost 3 weeks from the 29th to the 16th is not an acceptable time for security to take action to disassemble an encampment? Would you agree with me on that?
I would. And
Thank you very much. So who has been fired or who has been replaced? Because that doesn't seem real tough to me. Anybody?
What we have learned,
Anybody been replaced?
there has been turnover. It's not
I'm not
because of
asking
this.
turnover. What consequences happened for the people who were supposed to be in charge?
The development of our accountability
Any
culture.
consequences? Yeah, just were there? Let's start with a simple.
retraining.
Let's start with a simple one. Any consequences?
To student groups, yes.
Not just. I'm talking to the people who didn't follow your procedures of 3 weeks. Because let me just read it, just in case you don't know your policy, but let me read it. This is from your policy. May not impede passage or in or out of any facility, may not involve activity that is violent or otherwise threatens the safety of demonstrators or any members of the community, may not interfere with business or academics of the university. These are your policies that did anyone get reprimanded for that?
What I mentioned is that we have done significant review and learned from this.
You don't need to do
accountability is
review. Was anyone held accountable other than Michael and his friend that sustained a concussion and a broken wrist? So what actions changed? Because you got great policies and you got great lip service. The problem is you need action. And unless you as the president of the university is willing to take action, not lip service, I can talk about working out all day long, but there's a lot difference between me working out and me talking about it. So my question is, if there is another encampment on that, are you taking?
I'm going to say this. It does not sound like these universities actually cared about what's going on to these students. I mean, if you listen to some of these people before, I mean, some of these had Jewish students, specifically DePaul, had Jewish students that were actually attacked by these groups. And you heard how these folks acted. The president of Haverford was all combative and everything, which then again, though, this was a combative hearing because these folks want to defend their anti-Semitic movements. And I mean, I can agree with protesting. I can agree with having the ability to say your piece, but unfortunately, these groups aren't being peaceful. They're actually attacking fellow students. They're destroying buildings. As you've seen at UW, I've done that one. Columbia University, they had to arrest folks out of the library there. These folks are violent. They are destructive. And oh, by the way, they're specifically aiming at one type of student, which is Jewish students. Well, anybody that also defends these Jewish students. So I'm glad to see that Congress is at least holding hearings, but unfortunately, I don't actually see anything being done. Gotten to the point where I don't trust Congress to do anything. But hey, that's the way it goes. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye. So, folks, that's the story that I wanted to bring you on this video. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming by. Hit like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff if you don't mind. Help me out. So, y'all have a good day now. Bye.